Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chandra Weigel, Associate State Director of Outreach and Advocacy for AARP here in the Houston area. I want to first of all welcome you to our first virtual session with Asia Society. We kicked off the year with an event with them during the month of May, and we will have several more engagements ranging from virtual as well as a few in person at their wonderful location here in the Houston area. But before I turn it over to them to get started, I wanted to give you a little bit of information about AARP. AARP is a nonprofit, nonpartisan member organization dedicated to advocating on behalf of the 50 plus. Our organization does a whole range of things from advocacy and outreach, which is a part of my job. We also do in person as well as virtual engagements where we provide information that is relevant, fun with purpose, and sometimes educational. And we partner with organizations like the Asia Society in order to bring that content to you. And with the virtual, we can expand that. And I'm happy to say that for today's event, we had over 500 people who were interested in signing up, and probably a little under 200 that are on right now. So thank you all for being here. If you have any questions or any comments, please utilize the chat, and I will be helping Asia Society take care of the chat feature and answer questions that you may have. I'd also like to encourage you to visit aarp.org/near you for other content and information, as well as events and opportunities to volunteer that are closer to wherever you are in the world. So thank you again for joining us, and I'd like to turn it over to Jennifer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chandra. It's always a pleasure to work with you and AARP and doing these virtual programs as well too. We started doing these virtual programs during COVID, and we have seen still a demand. Obviously, here today, it's great to see that too. We are doing in-person programs as well. So as Chandra mentioned, so it's been a joy to do both, and we love especially these types of programs where we get to see people from all over the U.S. Head over PA. I'm actually a native Pittsburgher, but I've been here in Houston for over 20 years. And it's exciting to be able to share our programming and this type of programming with you as we go through. We've got Queens, North Carolina, California, South Dakota. I love seeing all of this as we go through. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump into the presentation for today about mandalas and mindfulness. So the way that the structure will work is we'll go through a quick presentation with some videos, and then we'll be creating mandalas during this as well. You don't have to be an artist. You don't have to have any experience with mandalas before. This is really more of a mindfulness activity than it is an art activity, but you can incorporate as much art as you like. We'll give you all the tools to do that. So we're excited to kind of jump right in. And if there are any questions, please go ahead and put those in the chat as well. I am, just to, so everybody can hear and access to, we're going to keep the microphones on mute because it is such a large group. We're up to over 200 folks. So we will continue to do that as we go through. The recording will be available afterwards too. Chandra will put that out through the AARP network as we go through. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. Oh, and materials, good question, Debbie. All you'll need to start, you just need paper and pens or pencils. If you have crayons or markers or anything colorful, you can use that as well, but you don't need them. But if you want to add some color and things like that, and we mostly work with red, blue, green, and yellow as the colors to work with. So if you do want to get those together as we're starting, that's fine. But really, all you need is paper and pencil. You can always add the color in later on too, or another activity. Okay, so we'll go ahead and jump in. So if you've been to our beautiful center in Houston's Museum District before, I'd love it if you could drop that in the chat so I could know. But since many of you are from all over, You don't have to come to our center to participate in this lovely program, which we're excited about. We do have 14 locations across the world, and we're one of them in Houston. There's one in New York City as well. There's one in Hong Kong, and then the rest are kind of just programs and building spaces throughout the U.S. But the three main centers are us and New York and Hong Kong. Our goal and our mission is to build cross-cultural understanding and empathy between the East and the West. And we do that through business and policy programming, through art exhibitions, performing arts, and then my work is in education. For any of you in Houston, we actually have a brand new education exhibition. I'll post a link at the end that's opening this weekend. So if you are near in Texas or you'd like to come by, it's free. We're very excited for that as well. We'd love to see you all there. And next time we have an AARP event in person too, we'll be highlighting that as part of our programming as well. And Kim, yes, this is recorded as well. I got a question about that. So this will be recorded. It will be posted later. And this is something too, we've done a presentation like this in the past. People do want to go back and look at it again. So we're happy to provide that as a resource. So today we're going to talk about mandalas, and they have a lot of different symbolism and meaning in many different cultures and different religions. So we're going to give a broad overview and then really dive into what they mean in Tibetan culture today, and then again have that hands-on activity where you can all create your own. So what is a mandala? The word mandala itself is a Sanskrit word that translates to circle. And the geometric design, it holds a great deal of symbolism in Hinduism and Buddhism, in China, Japan, and Tibet. Mandalas have traveled all across the world, especially during the Silk Road times throughout East Asia and the rest of Asia as well. And they can be objects of meditation, they can aid in spiritual development, they can be decorative, they can be something that you use as a reflection tool. They can have great meaning, or it can just be very personal meaning to you as well. There is one belief that I really enjoy sharing. It's that by entering the mandala and proceeding towards its center, you're guided through the cosmic process of transforming the universe from one of suffering to one of joy and happiness. There's another method too, which says that it's going from that state of ignorance to a state of enlightenment. I've seen people use them too, starting with a state of chaos into a state of order, you know, a state of maybe not knowing yourself or knowing what your direction and where you're going, to really having clarity of what you'd like to do moving forward. So one of the main ways that this was spread throughout different cultures, mandalas was the Silk Road. So Buddhist monks traveled the Silk Road, which I think many of you might be familiar with from your days in history class or your own personal readings. This is an ancient network of trade routes between the East and the West that brought Buddhism and other religions and spread them throughout different lands. So mandalas in particular were tools that Buddhists used and shared to practice, and would do demonstrations of these too, to really draw people into Buddhism and to share the meaning of it too. If you think about it, they're very visual, and it's a good way to show and share different parts of the religion. So then, even though they have these roots in Buddhism, they soon became practices in Hinduism and other religious practices as well. We actually have an exhibit right now at Asia Society Texas that has a component about the Ellora caves in India. They're a network of over 50 caves right next to each other. They're thousands of years old. They're still really well preserved, and they feature Buddhism, Hinduism, and Jainism. And throughout each of the caves and through each of these different religions, you can see mandalas in them. So it's definitely something that's been shared across religions that, again, has different meanings across different philosophies and cultures. So here at Asia Society, we've had the pleasure of hosting Tibetan monks to complete mandalas for us, and we've learned a lot through that process. So we'll share a little bit about that. But what you're looking at right now is actually, it's a mandala done by sand, and that's one of the different types of forms we can use. So the group that comes, they come through a national group called the Mystical Arts of Tibet, from the Drupring Losling Monastery in southern India. And the goal is to contribute to Western culture by providing the knowledge and training in Tibetan Buddhism scholarly traditions. So this is a big part of Tibetan culture too, is to help preserve it, to share the knowledge of it. It's been an area that's been relatively isolated for quite some time. So the idea is that it's been a very well preserved art that the monks and then other groups are very well passionate about sharing throughout. These are used against sand. So the sand is dyed different colors. And these tiny little grains of sand, they're very painstakingly laid into different places in different areas. A lot of times it's used to purify, to heal, and to just share an energy for global healing. And I'll give you a moment here to read this quote by the Dalai Lama about the symbolism behind Tibetan mandalas. And then we've got a good question here in the chat too. I'll address after this. So in a lot of different, Buddhism looks different in different places around the world, different cultures. Here, deities are very much connected to Buddhism within Tibet. And they see a lot of these mandalas as a way to show respect for those deities or what they symbolize too. We have a question here. Are mandalas ever done in a more permanent way than in sand? That's very much up to the user. But the Tibetan monks that we've worked with and many who work with mandalas, the impermanence is a big part of the area of that as well. So here we have some of the monks that have worked here in our monastery, or from the Drooping Monastery before. And what we're going to do is watch a video of them. If you'll give me a moment to stop my share and switch, we're going to watch a video of them in action, because that's really the way to best view it. And this is part of the recording. Sometimes on Zoom, videos come up a little choppy, so I do apologize if that does happen. And I will share the link in the chat as well, in case for some reason you can't hear it.
Maybe.
Dewa
lots of great questions coming through in the chat. So I'm going to go back to the presentation. And we will start answering them, which I'm very excited about. Okay, can everybody see my screen again? Okay, yes, and I will definitely post this video here in a second. Let me just go back to make sure I'm getting the right share. Okay, so I'd love to hear more comments too about what you noticed in this video and what you observed. I'm loving these questions that are coming through. I'm going to do my best to answer. And there are people, I'm not a Tibetan scholar, so I do have some experience working with them. So I'll do my best, but I will definitely, for things that I'm not sure of, I will get a response. Like the left hand, I'm not quite sure about that one, but I will get a response. The question, are they always done by more than one person? So it's a minimum of 4 people that I've seen. I can go up to 6, even more. It's years and years of training to be able to do the mandala, and that's even within a monastery, much less for the traveling group that goes around the world to do this as well. So it takes years and years of dedication, of practice, of training to be able to do that. Kim asked if there's a mistake, is it left like that or they try to make it perfect? There is so much skill involved in this. They are able to correct the mistake through their, if you can see, it's such a small grain that they're working with. And I have actually with me, this is called a shakpur. Someone asked the name of the tool. And for those of you who can see me here, it looks like this. And the sound, a lot of people were commenting on the sound that they heard too. Right, and it does, the faster you go, the more sand comes out. So if you go much slower, just a very little bit of sand comes out. So faster and slower. It does, I think, have a meditative sound to it. Somebody commented before, but they are trained if they do make an error or mistake. I mean, it's so much. A lot of them are very large too. It's bound to happen. They can correct it very easily. For the most part, that's part of the training and part of what they go through as well. It's very, very skillful. It takes quite a long time to train and to do this. When we have it at the center, it's usually a couple days worth of a process. Yes, I love the comment, Wendy, about it being that kind of meditative thing. Oh, so Jan, again, this is a chakpur, is what the name of the tool is called. And the vibrations are what, there's vibrations in their voices too. So you heard them singing and chanting a lot. That's part of the training. It's part of the process as well. That vibrations, that energy, all that's very important in Tibetan Buddhism. Is the mandala supposed to be a certain size, or can it be any size? So there's a lot of significance into the patterns and the size of the mandala as well. So a lot of that depends on the monks and where they're coming from, which monastery, where they're going, what the symbolism is behind what they're parading. Here we have one, a Buddha of compassion, and there's a very specific pattern and colors and symbolism that goes into that as well. And then, yes, I love this question. So sad to see all this beautiful work immediately swept away. Can you explain why they do not keep them, at least for a while? So we'll get to that in one moment. And the tool, so it's a metal tool as well, which I think we could hear. It's not made of wood. Janet, you're putting the impermanence ideology in, which is great. They're very close to the sand. How do they not aspirate the sand? That's a good, I think it's just all part of the training, right? And also one thing that I've learned working with the monks too is that everything they do, there's so much intention between breath and every little movement they make throughout the whole time they're here creating this mandala. They train a long time to get those deep vibrations of their voice and the singing and the chanting. So I imagine that's part of what they do when they're getting that close to the sand. I would personally, if I got that close, I would be breathing everywhere. The sand would go everywhere, and I don't have those skills either to get that much of that precision, I guess, with what they're doing. So we'll go to the big question here of, and we do allow guests to try it when they come and visit the center, and they do go all around the world, so they don't just come to Asia Society, they've been all over. And we have a little mandala for guests to come and try and do that. And You can get the hang of it pretty quickly, but to do these elaborate designs is much more challenging. The impermanence issue is a big piece here. So they do immediately, when they're done, there's a ceremony, there's a ritual involved, and that can look different, again, based on the monastery of the group, but they do sweep it away. And this goes back to the Buddhist concept of impermanence, that nothing is permanent, and the more that we, this is a very basic breakdown of it, but the more that we try to attach ourselves to something, the more that it's going to cause suffering. So the idea is that after this dedication, this commitment, this training, you develop and build this beautiful mandala, and you immediately sweep it away. You're showing that you're not attached, that you are accepting of the universe and how it's constantly changing. The only thing that is permanent is change, right? So that's the basic idea behind it. For a Western audience, especially, this can be very hard to watch, difficult to watch, because we tend to get attached much more in Western society. That's what we found from our visitors that come and people that go through. They want to take a lot of pictures. They want to find a way to preserve it and keep it. But in spirit with Buddhism and with everything going on within the work of creating a mandala and beyond there too, it's very much related to impermanence and this idea that the more attachment we have, the more suffering we have. And then as the monks are doing the mandalas, I should mention as well, just because it goes along with a lot of these questions, that it's a very meditative process for them, but there's so much intention between what they're thinking and what they're doing. So this here is a mandala for compassion. So as they're creating it, they're thinking of compassion. They're meditating and praying on compassion. So there's a lot going on that we don't see, as far as their inner dialogue and thought, their intentions, and then how they work and process together as they're creating this mandala over days and days of a time. There's an interesting question here. Are they in a trance form when they're chanting and creating it? They interact with the visitors a lot when they come to us. They talk. People will come to see them too and seek out their guidance as well. So I wouldn't say it's, from what I've observed, and this is just my opinion, that it's a trance-like state. We do ask that when they're creating the mandala that they very much they like to focus very much on that. But then they will also rotate out roles. So there might be 3 or 4 working on it, while 1 or 2 interact with the audience and answer questions. The group that we've worked with that we're featuring here is very much an educational group. They travel around the world doing this. It's part of that sharing and educational involvement. They also would do performances for us to debate is really strong in Tibetan Buddhist culture, where they would do demonstrations of debate, how it works. They would do a lion dance show as well. That was really fun for the kids, especially. So it really is about sharing more than just the mandala too. There's lots of other cultural elements that come through, but it comes to this training and this reverence for history, for the past, and all these traditions that go through. Okay, good. I love some of these questions here about if there are other women that are monks. There are women Buddhist monks out there, but with these specific Tibetan groups, I haven't seen that. There's actually I'm going to send you a link to some Asia Society monks that we've recognized. Well, they're not some women monks that we've recognized through our Game Changer Awards, called the Kung Fu Monks. So I'm going to put a link in towards the end of that as well. So somebody asked about the sand too afterwards, how they would give it away. That just really depends on the group and the tradition, and the intent and behind what they're doing as well. It can be washed away, and the water is what they said too. But it's more on that impermanence too, and I think it's giving away the gesture, giving it away at the end of something like this is for someone to have that memory and to think on that compassion and on everything there. I'm seeing the question of why he put sand on his head too. I'm not sure. I have to go back and look at that, but I can't answer that one specifically. But I will. That I think was probably very specific to that situation and that monk. So I will try to find that answer for you, Kathleen. Okay. So here's some of other things you might have observed, common colors. So These are the symbolism behind some of the colors. I do believe somebody asked about that too. I'm not quite sure of the dyeing process of the sand too. I do know that we talked to the monks too about using natural dyes before when we had that, but here's the basic symbolism behind it. So we've got red meaning your life force, blue meaning purity and healing, yellow meaning rootedness, green balance and harmony, and white learning and knowledge. And this goes back to one of the questions about how did the monks decide what mandala to create when it's time to create mandalas. That goes back to their debates and their process and their focus and their intention behind their practice at the time. So it is a long process internally within them. What I want you to do now is you're looking at these colors too. If there's any that particularly speak to you now, or maybe you need some rootedness in your life right now. Maybe you're feeling a little lost or a little kind of all over the place and you want to feel grounded and rooted. Write down that yellow means that. If it's something where you could use some healing, you can write down blue. These types of questions. So think about that. And then we're going to move on to some symbols too that you might have seen within these mandalas. So same thing here too. If you're really seeking something right now, go ahead and write that down. So we have the sun symbolizing energy and life. We have bells symbolizing openness. We have a downward triangle, creativity, and a lotus flower, balance. So again, take a moment if you'd like to, these are also things that are pretty easy to draw and to create. Even I can do it. I'm not much of an artist. Yeah, and I'll go back to the colors of real quick as well. Again, anyone that you want to write down. And I'm seeing lots of great questions here about chakras and such too. So so chakras are connected to Hinduism. Here with this color breakdown and the symbols, I'd focus specifically on this very specific Tibetan Buddhist group, but chakras are connected to mandalas made in Hinduism. So there are a lot of different layers and pieces of connectivity. Like in Hinduism, there's the sacred wheel, right? And areas of chakras that come through that. So they're not connected just for this specific purpose here. We're just focused solely on Tibetan. So these are great questions, and it's good because there's been so much interchange between Buddhism and Hinduism over for so many centuries that you will see a lot of things that are similar and in common, but everyone puts their own meaning and significance behind different symbols and colors. Okay, so here are colors again, and then again our symbols too. So again, anything you can incorporate all of them or some of them, none of them into your drawing, and we're about to jump into how to do that as well. So everybody could get out their paper now. Oh, Jana's asking, do the symbols need to be certain colors as well? Not necessarily. You could just, again, if you just have pencil or pen, you could just use that. And if you just want to practice something like openness or creativity, you don't need it to have it color. If you want to pair the color and the symbol together, you can do that as well. It's completely up to you. And this is not the process we're about to go through is very much your personal reflection. It doesn't have to be exact and specific. Maybe you want to make your triangle purple just because you're feeling purple. That's totally fine too. Just keep that in mind as we go through. Or maybe purple means something significant to you personally, and that's what color you want to use. That's completely fine too. And that's what we're going to do today. So we're going to make a gratitude mandala, and this is a mindfulness activity, and it's to focus on that gratitude and reflection. And I like this activity in particular because it's a good, if you're very artsy and talented in that area, you can make it as beautiful and artful as you want. If you really just need a reflection tool, you can use it for that as well. there's lots of different directions you could go on. And as we talk about with the monks too, very much a part of their process of creating the mandala is that internal dialogue on what it is they're hoping for and wishing for in the universe. So we're going to focus on that too, with gratitude really being at the center of what we're doing too. So that should be at the center as you're going through this activity. You can always, if you want to do this again later or do this with your family or friends, you could change your middle prompt, but that's what we will be focusing on for today. And Lisa, I think you're asking about the circles within this specific example. They're not necessary at all. We'll get to that in a moment here as we jump in. So the first thing you're going to do, and I have a sample here, is you're going to take a paper and draw a circle in the middle, and you're going to write the I am grateful for inside of it. Or you could write gratitude, again, however you'd like to. And then you're going to create that small ring around the inner circle that contains a geometric design. So Lisa, I think this goes back to your question of, do you need the interlocking circles? You could make, just 5 big circles connecting. What I did with mine is I drew a circle and I did a combination of a yellow sun with a green triangle and just kind of made that a pattern throughout. I am not the most gifted artist, so mine is very basic. I have colleagues that have done beautiful geometric drawings around, so you can pick whichever way that you would like. Again, this is very much your own tool. This is not a religious exercise. It's very much yours. Okay, Janet, I'll show you. Let me see. please don't be my my sample is not very good. So this is my starting point where I just wrote I am grateful for, and I've got my yellow suns and my green triangles. Again, super basic. And then I'm going to draw my 14 lines around the side. So I'm doing this along with you, because I always find this is a way that brings me personal joy too, because I get inspiration from all of you as I do it. And I've done this with 6-year-olds. I've done it with 85-year-olds, all the range. We've done this, my whole family has done it together. Our staff here has done it together. And somebody was asking earlier about the geometric lines too and the significance behind what the monks do. There is a complete science to it. It's very complicated. I cannot do it justice by trying to explain it, but just the answer is yes. So this is also, as you're drawing those lines around, if you want to use a ruler or a piece of paper and be very specific with your lines, it's fine. If you want to go a little bit more non-specific and scientific, that's totally fine too. So you're drawing your 14 spokes off of your wheel, off of your circle. Spokes and why we found that so in mandala creation in general, geometry is really important. So having even and clean numbers, this one seems to be the one that works the best, but there's no specific, there's the Eightfold Path of Buddhism, there's different things like that. But we found that in this activity, this tends to work well. Are they supposed to be equally done around? Again, they can, or they don't have to be. It's up to you and what it is that you think. So mine are not equal. I just am not, there's people that, again, we've done this with it, like to sit and draw the lines equally and measure them with a ruler. That's just not my style. So you can make it very much your own. There's no wrong way to do this, is what I'm saying. So either way is fine. And I'll show you what I have too, just so you can probably hopefully not be embarrassed by yours. See, mine are very uneven; they're all over the place, but that's how my brain kind of works. So, and yours might be again a little neater, and either way is totally fine. Okay. So next, what you're going to do is take a topic, and you're going to write the word down, and then write the reflection that comes with you after that. So the topic we're doing today is blue. And the topic, when I think of blue, I think of deep oceans, I think of big skies, I think of my dad's eyes, blueberries. These are all things that are just kind of important in my life right now. And it's just going to be one spoke. So if you go, and that's just the topic for one spoke, I should be clear on. So I'll show my screen again very quickly. So I just picked one scope, one area, and then I wrote my reflection of all the things I'm grateful for that are blue, right? So that's in my one area. I could use a blue pen, I could use a regular pen, I'm sticking with green because I'm kind of feeling the green today. But that's when I think of blue. These are the things that I'm grateful for. I'm about to go to the ocean soon, so I'm thinking about that and how grateful I am, and especially with all this heat here, all these different things and topics under blue. Okay. So I'm going to go back to sharing screen. Oh, Rochelle, like, yes, this is supposed to be, it's again, this gratitude of kind of that work. So different topics to work from, and then I'll give you at the end free reign to make your own topics as you go through. And the reason I'm giving you topics is it pushes us to think about gratitude in ways that we might not normally think of it. I don't often think, oh, I'm grateful for the color blue. So this is a way to really push. Yeah, so Lisa, something that resonates with the list of just your own, when you think of blue, what are you grateful for that's blue? Maybe it's the ocean or sky. Maybe it's something that you really, you have, it's a flower, it's a piece of clothing that you like, it's a couch, it's a food, something that just connects to that, and it can only be one thing, it can be two things, it can be 10 things, it's completely up to you. It could be a memory, it could be a person, any of those types of things. Don't think I guess just think about, pause for a moment, think about that gratitude as the inner working to help guide you in your answer. So next we have family. So for me personally, I think of, my daughters, my partner, my parents, my friends, childhood memories. You don't have to think of, your blood relative family. It could be people you consider your chosen family. It could be things from the past. It could be things in the present. I did this earlier this week, and even now I'm thinking of different things. So it's pretty interesting how the mind works, how gratitude can speak to us differently even a couple days later. And I'll just show you, just so you have an example of, you just keep going with your spokes. You don't have to even go in order. You could go over here. Again, just what speaks to you. It's your own art form, your own tool. So whatever's going to best help you with that gratitude reflection. Yeah, and Lee, to your question, yes, it could be in order. I like going in order usually, but you could go, maybe you want to make it parallel and just kind of have things build each way. That's fine. It doesn't, wherever you think it's going to fit best. Also, thinking back to those symbols and those colors, you can add more of those in. You could change the color marker you're using or crayon. You could draw symbols next to what you're drawing that are writing about that speak to that. Okay, next we'll do food. I like to eat a lot, so this is a big part of gratitude for me. I just made noodles earlier this week with my daughter. We made fresh noodles with, I'd never done that before, and that was a lot of fun. So that was the first thing that popped into my head, is just grateful for that memory and that moment. Fresh vegetables are my favorite too, and then a lot of spicy curries lately. We go through jars and jars of peanut butter in my house, so I'm grateful for that as well. And big salads, of course. this, you can even draw pictures of some of this as well. You don't have to write the words. You could pick, again, one thing and just reflect on it. Okay. And next, we'll go with nature. So I think when a lot of us think about nature and mindfulness, there's a lot there, right? There's a lot to unpack. In Japan right now, there's forest bathing has become a big trend, and I think we've started a little bit here too, where in the West, we tend to want to go on a hike, and we're going to go 3 miles. We're going to go look at the waterfall. We're going to go find this. And forest bathing is much more about you're going to nature just to be in nature, to have it relax you. And there's a lot of research that shows that just being in nature and being more present and aware of what's happening can really lower your stress levels, can help regulate your hormones, it's a really good mindfulness point too. So I've been thinking about that a lot lately as I read more about it, especially now that in Houston we can't really go outdoors that much right now. I mean, if I go out, I get attacked by mosquitoes, and it's like 110. So I'm finding more gratitude for those moments when I can go outside, even those early evenings where it's not as bad. For rain, we're really, I think somebody wrote earlier, they finally got some rain in their area of the U.S. So these are the types of things that you can think about and reflect on. And if you're having a hard time coming up with responses to some of these too, just go back to that gratitude and spend a moment. Maybe you can't answer it right now. Maybe you'll go back to it later. Maybe you just want to, again, draw a picture or skip it. I mean, you don't have to do these prompts too either. You can come up with something that maybe is a little easier for you. But if you can't focus on that right now, I think that's a good point of reflection to think about a little bit more. Okay, just because I want to make sure we have enough time to get through all of this. So the next, you can pick your choice for the rest of them. So we've done a couple of these. We've done 4 of these together. For the other 10, you can pick your choice of what you'd like to fill in. Either these are just some ideas. You can also be more specific, right? You can do a specific person. You can do a specific type of thing. Like here in Houston, we drive a lot. So I've done one on my car and how I'm grateful for my car. I don't love driving, so that's actually a really good one for me to do because it helps me reframe and around that gratitude and how grateful I am to have a vehicle and to be able to move around the city as I need to. So these are just some different samples of topics. And then, I'll give you guys a couple minutes to go through. I'll go through some of these questions that might have come into the chat too, but I do want to give you some of that silence and that time. And I love the comment earlier about how this does feel relaxing and meditative. It should feel good to you. It might bring up some things though that are harder to think about, and that's up to you if you want to go there or not. And then we'll come back together and I can. I've answered a few questions in the chat that were sent to me personally, so give you a few minutes. Oh, thanks, Janet. Sorry. And then I'm going to go ahead and pop in those links too. Oh, so if you want some more ideas too, I would think, I always like looking around your house, or the room that you're in right now, and picking one thing that you're grateful for. in your home that's immediate close to you. I think memory is a really good one too, if you need some more ideas. So thinking about one of your favorite memories and how you're grateful for that as well. One I like to do too, the teenagers I work with really like this one too, is thinking about something that you do every day that you're grateful for. So maybe it could be as simple as brushing your teeth and having the ability to do that. It could be, I really like, I have 2 little ones at home. So I'm really grateful for that. Even though it's a little chaotic, the bedtime routine, like I know it's fleeting, it's impermanent, right? So I try to be in the moment for that a little bit more and reflect on that and be grateful for that. It could be a favorite show that you're watching now, thinking about how that brings you joy. Okay, and then I do have to sign off to an end, but I'd be happy, please reach out to me or follow us more. If you're going to be in Houston this weekend, please come by Asia Society. We'd love to see you. And thank you again for being such a wonderful audience. And I'm just delighted to be here today. I'm very grateful for all of you today. This was a fun way to spend the afternoon. So have a wonderful rest of your day.